Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Spotify so you can listen to every new podcast we publish. Also, follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. In there's a link in our bio for our Discord so you can join and give us your takes or questions, whatever it is you want us to talk about on the podcast. Now, let's get to the show. Rip City, baby.
Rip City, there's no pity. We stay litty. Jaguar. Red city. Red city.
Thank you guys for joining us on Ep.6. Unfortunately, it's the last episode we'll be talking about Blazers playoff basketball. We unfortunately lost to the Denver Nuggets in Game 6, 126 to 115. We now no longer are in the playoffs, and it sucks because I feel like this year we had a decent team. It never came all the way together. So we're going to just hop right into it. We're going to keep this one focused on just the playoffs in general and this game. And then the next podcast and later on, we'll talk more about off-season moves and just different things. So with that being said, like I said, we lost 126 to 115. It was a tough game. We had the lead for most of the game, and it just unfortunately we lost it in the last, I'd say 5-6 minutes. They started making a run at us, and we just never could hold them down. So, Fawad, I'll start off with you. How do you feel about that Game 6?
That was tough to watch, especially at the end. Obviously, it wasn't as bad as Game 5, but to have a double-digit lead so late into the game and like have it get evaporated so quickly and then just let them keep going on a run until we ended up losing by double digits ourselves, that was a really hard fourth quarter to watch. We're usually even outside of Dame, we're normally not that bad in the clutch, but the whole team was really couldn't hit a shot, couldn't stop them from scoring. And then Nurk had his foul trouble again, so then that made it even tougher. A lot of things went wrong.
Yeah. So, Mike, do you have anything you want to add for how you feel this Game 6 went?
I think everything this game comes down to coaching, particularly the minutes distribution. It was possibly the worst possible, but yeah, we'll get to it.
So let's go. For me, this game it sucks that we lost and it hurt. It hurt that we lost and that the series is over. But I honestly feel like it's less of a sting because of what happened in Game 5. I think Game 5 really just took the sails out of all of us. And I felt with us losing Game 5 the way we did and the effort that Lillard gave us, I would have been shocked if we won this game, honestly. I felt like it kind of just took everything out of the Blazers. And unfortunately, we came out looking good through 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter, we scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. And that's not going to cut it. So let's go ahead. We're going to do some player evaluations for this game. And then once you give the evaluation for this game, I also want to do what you just thought overall, how they performed in the series themselves. So first off, let's go with the obvious choice, Damian Lillard. Fawad, how did you feel that he did in this game, and then how did he do for the overall series?
This game was probably the worst of the series. I'm guessing he was really tired from the last game, double OT, huge carry effort. And I think it was even worse than his 10 points, 1 for 10, because he was still impacting the game in a lot of ways. And he did tonight as well, but his shot wasn't falling, and then just at the end of the game, he wasn't really able to do much. And it always feels worse when you have a bad game and a loss than a bad game and a win. But for the series overall, I think he was amazing. Put up some historic performances. Put multiple historic performances. He had that one record-setting 3.5 as well earlier in the series, and then obviously the 55 points last game. Just we couldn't really ask much more from him.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, how about you for Lillard?
Yeah, this game I agree. It's probably the worst. Not that he was bad, but he just underperformed a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
he definitely wasn't bad. He had 28 and 13. That's you
yeah,
take that every day.
he was good. It just I think we had a lot of expectations after game 5, but everything comes down to motivation. There's two ways he can go after that game. Either either he scores 55 and says it's not enough. I might have to go into game 6, and instead of scoring 55, I score 60, and that'll be enough. Or it takes the easier route, which made sense. I I literally can do anything in the court and become one of the most unstoppable players of all time. The rest of the team is still going to choke, and that's what happened. Overall, amazing series. Um, I don't like to say this, but I think he deserves better treatment in another franchise.
Yeah, I mean that's it's a tough thought to think that he deserves to go somewhere else and win because what he wants is to be able to win here, and I totally understand. We, the organization as a whole, has to do a better job of giving him the tools, the talent that it takes to win, and they have done. I thought this year they made decent steps towards it, but the fact that it's been however many years, 4 years since Aldridge and all of them have left, that we have not got a single All Star. I mean, I know CJ's borderline All Star. The way he played in this series, which we'll talk about in a second, he definitely is not borderline All Star. But Lillard as a whole is one of the best players in the NBA. We all know that. Uh, he can stay here as long as we can surround him with more talent, and we could win here. It's just all about getting that talent here, and that's giving him that super max contract, giving CJ that huge contract. It's hard to find talent to come in and take a huge pay cut when you have that on. So with that, we're gonna move on. I too obviously think Damian Lillard had a not a he had a subpar game. He still played great, but it just wasn't his normal what we've come to know. And I think for the series, obviously he was without a doubt the best player on our team. And I think pretty much all of us said in that one episode that we think Dame needs to have the better series out of the two of them. And unfortunately, he did, and we still lost. So with that being said, let's move on to a very very hot topic with CJ. Mike, go ahead. Tell me how you felt CJ did in Game 6 and how he did for the series.
Um, I said this before the game to a couple of friends. If CJ is playing 40 minutes in a game, you're not winning that game. And he played 38. Another another very bad performance, weak on both ends. Didn't really make a scoring impact. He scored 21, but it was on bad percentages. He shot 25% from free. He even missed a free throw. Uh, Everything was shocking. His defense, I can't begin to tell you. Monte Morris looks like Steph Curry out there when he has CJ McCollum in front of him. It's just very tough to watch. Overall in this series, probably the worst player out of all Blazers. He was just he was consistent, but consistently bad. Literally every game, um, he managed a way to choke the game, or kill our run, or stagnate the offense, or make Denver go for a run. I'm surprised he didn't choke the blowout, but that would have been very tough. But yeah, absolutely shocking. And again, tonight, this ain't it. This ain't it. Dame didn't deserve him. He deserved more from him, and he didn't get it. He got way less of him than we see on the season. CJ started the season playing like almost playing like an all-star, averaging 27, moving around the ball, getting assists. Yeah, this is the polar opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, the way CJ started off the season was to the point where I think most of us thought, okay, we have 2 All-Stars now. CJ's finally taken that next step to become that All-Star player that we need. And coming into the playoffs, and he comes back from injury and it was kind of slow building himself back up. We all thought he would have a pretty big impact in this game because he usually plays good against Denver. I truly don't think there really was ever one single game where we could look at it and be like, man, CJ played great. The one game, I think it was game 3
Definitely
that he had the 8 assists.
game 4.
Game 4, okay. I think that was his best game 4 out of the series, obviously. But even then, he didn't shoot well. His defense is just what kills us, and it's unfortunate that we've had him for as long as we've had him, and we want him to do good and be good. And unfortunately, this series just it was not for him. Go ahead, Fawad. What do you got for CJ?
So today, outside of one like small stretch where he had like 2 or 3 buckets in a row, he was just like he was in all the other games, very underwhelming. Like you said, his best game was game 4 where he had the 8 assists, and that was like by far his best game, and he only had 21 points on like just okay shooting. So when his best game is just okay, and most of them are like significantly worse than that, that's all you need to say for how he played the series.
Yeah,
Also,
unfortunately for us, his series was just underwhelming as a whole.
Really quickly, my cousin is a pretty like big basketball fan, but he doesn't watch the Blazers too much. However, whenever he does watch, CJ happens to have a great game. So whenever I'm telling him about like how like CJ's inconsistent, he takes so many bad shots. He's like, I know what you're talking about. Like whenever I watch, he plays great. So now he finally watched this series, and he's like, oh shoot, like I know what you're talking about. Like CJ like needs to go.
Yeah, he can experience what we've been experiencing for a while now. So let's move on. Let's go to Nurkic real quick. How do you, Fawad, feel Nurkic did in this game 6 and the series?
Today, I thought he was fine. I didn't think he played bad. He did finish with what I think 5 fouls. Um, and a lot of them were like really dumb fouls, but other than that, I think he still had a good impact on the game. Only 13 points and 7 rebounds, but I thought he played okay defense. I thought um he was scoring like decently. Yeah, see, he shot 5 for 7, so he shot fine. He just didn't do too much. So I don't have too many complaints from him outside of the 5 turnovers. That was the one point where I thought he was really frustrating. But overall, I thought it was just an okay game. Nothing great, but I don't think it was bad either.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Mike. How do you feel Nurkic did?
This game, I think this game and every game, for Nurkic, it was good and weird because he goes on a few stretches. I think mentally that really take a toll on him. He makes dumb fouls. He starts like not defending. There was a point where Aaron Gordon got an offensive board and made the dunk, and Nurkic barely moved, and he just raised his arms, and you can see like there's a few points in the game where he just gives up. Um, and yeah, this is another guy like Lillard, like he can help a good team. Um, I just saw that in the post game interview, he said that his contract is not guaranteed, so he doesn't know where he will be. And he said that when he asked if he wanted to be back, he said in the right situation, yes, but this is not it. And yeah, I think the players are already turning into stats, and I think Nurkic is probably the most damaged player by the coaching decisions because he's not an ISO ball player. He's not a he's not an average defender. He's a great defender, but with no help, he can get into foul trouble, and that's what happened all series.
Yeah, unfortunately, Nurkic is at times can be one of those players that is leading us on the defensive end and on the offensive end with his passing and playmaking ability. And then, like you said, there's just times when it seems like he mentally takes a break from it, and that's what hurts us. So I want to kind of speed it up a little bit. Let's go I'm gonna give Fawad. I want to know how you thought Norman Powell did, and since I know Mike loves Melo, let's go, Mike. How did you thought Melo did? So let's go Fawad first. How do you feel Norman Powell did?
I thought he played fine. He had 17 points like pretty early on, but then after I think that was like early in the third, if I remember correctly. But then after that, he really didn't do much. But overall, he still finished the game with a decent game. That one open three near the end that really hurt that he missed.
Yep.
I think I think that would have cut it to 3. I don't remember exactly, but for the most part, he played fine. I don't really have any issues with him. Like I mentioned earlier, his first 2 games were underwhelming, but since then, games like 3 to 6 have all been solid, which is he's played like what we expected from him. So I would, um, I'm satisfied with how he played, and I would like him back next year if possible. But we'll get into that some other day.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just ask you real quick. Do you think the trade was worth it?
Um, I would say it all depends on if we re-sign him, but I would lean
Yeah,
towards no because one, I'm not too confident on us re-signing him. Two, I think Gary Trent Jr.'s ceiling is higher, but I guess like we are in a win now mode, so it's debatable.
yeah. I think it all really does come down, and I know we talked about it before. I think it comes down to if we re-sign him or not, if that trade was worth it. Okay, Mike, your boy Melo. Unfortunately, I have a feeling that might be the last time we see him. I could be wrong, but tell me how you felt he did in this game and the series.
Yeah, this game was actually very good from him. I thought he was very streaky, but that's how he is. He's a rhythm shooter, and he ended the game with nice percentages. 22 minutes, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. That you can't ask better for a role player. A huge game, and like him getting out of the court in the fourth quarter and CJ checking in. Uh, I really had a terrible feeling about that. I think it's Carmelo Anthony. It's one of the most clutch players of all time. If it's a game 6 in the playoffs and it's a tight fourth quarter, he's got to be in there. And especially defensively, I think this was probably close to his best game defensively this series. He was great defensively all series, but tonight it was just he got a lot of stops and forced turnovers. Very good. And I think if he stayed in the game, we might have had a different conversation today. But yeah, Stutz just runs the thing he wants. There's a game plan. There's a starting five. It looks automatic. Like even if Melo he got that quick jump, he got that free, then he got that foul and one on the mid range. If a player is cooking like that, you gotta leave him in there, especially because right after he went off, our offense died. We scored like 2 points after that, if that much. So yeah, if he stayed in there, we might have had a chance. But yeah, he took him out. He subbed back in CJ, and as we all know, that was game.
Yeah, we're gonna leave Stotts for the next podcast. I think we're gonna have a lot of stuff to say on him. But I do agree he sticks to these game plans that he sets up and these minutes that he sets up. There are times when players are on a roll that they need to stay in there, and he will pull them mid run. He'll pull them, and it's I don't understand it. I don't understand a lot of stuff he does, but we'll get to that at another podcast. So defense, obviously, was one of our biggest issues all season. Clearly, we were one of the worst defenses of all time. Young Crayon brought it up that the defense is probably our biggest talking point, and that we can't afford to be that bad on that end of the floor anymore. Like it has to become a priority. So, with that being said, what what is it? Is it Stotz's? What do you think it is? Is it Stotz's game plan on defense? Is it just the players committing to defense? What do you think it is?
I think the bulk of it is Stotts because we have a good amount of decent defenders. We have Nurk is great, Roko is great. Powell's at least average, if not better. Then you have Damon CJ, which hurt us a fair bit. But my like personal philosophy is that guard defense doesn't matter as much if your other three are good. And I do believe that our other three are good. So I think most of the blame goes to Stotts, but some of it does do go to Damon CJ, especially CJ, who's only 6'3" and he's usually guarding like people who have several inches on him. But also we keep saying that like the next season our focus has to be on defense, but that was what the front office and the coaching staff said this season. They said like this entire summer they focused on getting defensive players, getting better defensive schemes, and we finished 29th on defense, so it really didn't do anything.
Which leads me to think it is Stotts'. It's an issue with
Yeah.
Stotts and not with the players, because I do think that they made good moves in the offseason to address
Yeah,
our
I
defensive
agree.
issues. So, Mike, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think our board did well in the defensive department because we signed. We didn't sign. I think we traded for Robert Covington, and we signed Derek Jones Jr. That's a former All NBA defensive first, and another is the guy that gives everything out on the floor. And they mid-season they signed Rondé Hollis Jefferson, which is a phenomenal defender. He can break down every play. He can get in the mind of any NBA player. Very good. I was very impressed by him. But yeah, the fault is not on the board because that's literally 3 players that are in there and that can clamp anyone. The problem is absolutely on Stats and kind of. I wouldn't say this is the roster fault because, or even Stats fault, because when we have Damon Lillard and CJ McCollum, you kind of feel forced to play them both 40 minutes. But personally, I said this before, talking with a few friends, I would have started this game. I would have started Norman Powell at the 2 and probably play Melo or Rondé at the 3 starting because I knew CJ was going to be abused again because that was their game plan since game 1. Let's abuse CJ can't dodge a screen. Every CJ screen, it's a wide open look. So yeah, they abused that again, and yeah, they took the win. I think if we had normal at the 2 and playing Melo after 3, I think we wouldn't have exploits to be explored, and I think it would have been a way better outcome than play CJ again 40 minutes.
And I just want to put this out there, and I think I can speak for all three of us. We don't dislike CJ. We think he is a good player. Unfortunately,
great
when we
person, too.
started, when we started this podcast, unfortunately, he had a bad series, and we started this podcast pretty much as that series started. And it seems like we're always hating on CJ, and I truly don't dislike CJ at all. I think he's a good player, and like you said, a good person. It's just unfortunate that he's had a bad series, and we haven't really found much to be excited about for him.
Yeah, at the
And
start of the season, he was literally my favorite Blazer. He was balling out of his head. It was really good to watch, very fun to watch. But yeah, since the playoffs started, the opposite.
You want to add anything, Fuad?
yeah, I had something. I kind of lost it. Yeah, let's just continue.
Okay. So we're going to get close to wrapping it
sorry,
up.
I just remembered.
Nope, go for it.
Yeah, CJ is a good player, but I think one of the other issues, other than like his own like personal flaws, I think his fit on our team is like suboptimal. Like we can't play him with another undersized guard. He needs to be the point guard on his own team, or he needs to play with like a bigger point guard, like a Ben Simmons or like someone else
Yes,
who can make up for
exactly.
his flaws.
Exactly. So we're getting close to wrapping it up. I just want to get our quick little thoughts on our whole season as a whole. How you guys felt the season went. Are you happy with how it went? Are you disappointed with how it went? Are you just so on it? Go ahead, Mike. Tell me how you feel.
One word, underperformed. Underperformed to all hell. We had probably when the playoffs started, the most I'd say healthy roster. I don't count Zach Collins as an injury because we rarely see him. We had a full healthy roster. No one was. There wasn't even a hurt player. Everybody was 100%. We had an obligation to do a deep playoff run this year. And even before that, we had an obligation to get a maybe a higher seed, but the injuries kind of struck mid-season. But yeah, on the playoffs, it was a big underperformance. We should absolutely hammer Denver Nuggets team without Jamal Murray. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, this is not, as Nurkic said, this is not the right situation for any player, and something needs to change drastically.
Yeah, and before you go, Fuad, I just want to say, especially with how the playoffs this year have played out, this is the year where we could have made a deep run and actually. I know when we made that deep run to the Western Conference Finals, we ran into the Warriors, and we all know how good of a team that was. And it felt like, yeah, congratulations, we made it, to the Western Conference Finals, but we're running into just this monster of a team that we most likely don't have a chance of beating in a 7-game series. And it felt like this year with how everything's been playing out, and if you look at the score as we're doing this podcast, Phoenix is absolutely demolishing the Lakers 48-22. This could be the year where we make a run to the Western Conference Finals and it actually be a winnable series for us. It just, unfortunately, defense killed us and just too many letdowns. Go ahead, Fawad. Let me know how you feel.
Mike put it perfectly with underperformed. I think we honestly, that's an understatement. Before the season, it was one of the most excited I've been in ages. Last season was so tough, but that was all because of injuries. This season, I loved almost every move we made in the off season. Loved the Rocco acquisition. I thought DJJ was solid. Nurk was gonna be healthy. I was just so excited. I was like, we're gonna be like a top 2 to 3 seed in the West. I was like, we're going to the Western Conference Finals at least. And then 2 or 3 years ago, our defense was top 6 when we had Nurk for the first time for the full season. So I thought we were gonna be at least top 10 this season as well. And then basically every single thing that I was excited for, it went wrong. We couldn't do anything like on defense all season. And then I mean not Nurk, or Nurk was hurt for a bit as well. But when Dame was hurt for a bit in the middle of the series, and he played through some of that injury, we started dropping some of the games, and that hurt us even more. And we were so close to finishing seventh when I thought we were gonna be like a top 2 seed, and then we obviously lost in the first round against a hobbled Denver Nuggets. So like, there just everything went wrong. I was so excited for this season. There were almost no excuses for us playing bad, and we still did. And just everything was underwhelming.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and we had the players to make a run, and unfortunately, it never happened.
I think
I
this.
Go
I
ahead.
think it was the best on paper, the best roster we've had since Aldridge left. So I think like
Totally
that
agree.
was also why I was so excited.
Yeah, and like you said, I too was extremely excited for all the offseason moves we made, and I had the same thoughts that this is the year that we're gonna make a stand here. Uh, Obviously, I think change is needed, and we'll get to that in the next podcast or the next couple podcasts. But we just have to, thank thank our thank Lillard for what he's given us. Thank CJ for what he gave us at the beginning of the season. Thank the effort that Covington gave us almost every single night on the defensive end. Nurkic slowly coming back from that crazy injury and then, finally getting to play in front of fans. There was lots of things to be thankful for. And I know it sucks now and it hurts to lose, but there are good things that we have to look at too. Um, I think change is coming, and hopefully it's good change. But I mean, you never know, and I think it's needed. So, you guys want to add anything else before we close out?
All right, yeah, that quote you said, Yusuf Nurkic said exactly the same on the post-game interview. So yeah, maybe this is a sign of things to come. We need change. We need a new face in the bench. We need a new co-star, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to add, but I'm just gonna save it for the next one when we like actually dive into the off season and the changes that we need to make.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, this podcast is still going to continue. Obviously, with the Blazers not being playing anymore, we'll probably cut back to not having it every week, or it might be every other week, or there might be a couple times where there's a little bit gap. But we will be still making podcasts. It's going to be a lot more speculation, a lot more rumors, a lot more memories going back on and looking at other things that we've enjoyed from the Blazers past years, this year. And obviously, if anybody has anything that they want to add to our podcast, talk about, even if you want to join in on the podcast, just we're completely open. We're here to just have fun, have a good time. We love talking about Blazers. We love talking about basketball. So, it's just we don't want this to end just because the season's over. We still want to talk. So, with that being said, anything else you want to add before we close?
I'm good.
I'm good too. I'm not good, but I'm good.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we had to end this season with I Am Jordan's Rip City, just because I think it's a great anthem for us. It's a good song. It's Rip City is what it is. So check out I Am Jordan on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to music. He's on there. Unfortunately, series is over for us. Season's over for us, but we move on to next year. We move on to the off season. As always, Rip City.
Mo to Santa, bring the crowd out. OG finna air it out. Center court, time to wild out. I started tapping my wrist. You know what time it is. Step back through the wave. Send her up to his grave. There's no pity in the city of roses. I got the city riding with me. Young Blazer, I'm focused. Focus on the prize. Fire in my eyes. I got the spirit of 77. Rip City, do or die. Critics doubted I never panic. I had to stay mellow. From the Pacific to the Atlantic, we set it off inferno. Trailblazer, no Chevy. Catching fire like CJ. Whole team full of shooters. Dropping bombs like DJ. Set the net on fire. Crowd singing like a choir. Little Jersey, my attire.